We all know bad things can happen to good people, but another truth is that sometimes bad people happen to good people. We were designed by God to draw life not only from Him, but from others. Because we are not self-sustaining, we need other people in order to live rich and full lives. Connection with good, safe people affects all areas of life, from our health to our performance to our emotional well-being. But how do you know what to look for in significant relationships? Often we are unaware that we are actively or passively drawing people that hurt us. If your people picker is broken, this series will help you repair it. You'll learn what unsafe people are and how to recognize them. You'll see clearly what your own issues are in attracting the wrong type of people. And best of all, you'll discover what a safe person is and what traits you should look for.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Henry Cloud. I want to welcome you to this series called Safe People. Now, in this introduction, I want to tell you a little bit about what the whole thing is, why we did it, and hopefully what you're going to get out of it. You know, the reality about life is that bad stuff happens to good people, right? That's one of the big, difficult questions in the universe. Why do bad things happen to good people? And while we can't answer that one, there's another truth kind of similar to that, which is bad people happen to good people. Let me say that again. Bad people happen to good people, meaning that really good people many times get hurt by bad people. Now, just like the big why do bad things happen that we can't control and this, that, and the other, sometimes bad people happen to good people and there's nothing you could have done about it. You know, it's innocent. I mean, you just didn't see it coming. There wasn't any way to see it coming. There was a con artist or, you know, a thief or a mugger or something, and we'll never be able to completely prevent that. However, once you get past that, here's the reality of life, and it's basically what this whole series is about. Two things. One is we really need, and we'll go into this in great detail, but we really need people in our lives in order to live full lives for a number of reasons. You know, we draw all of life from the outside. God is the only person that doesn't need anyone outside of Himself. And even He exists in relationship within the Trinity. You know, the Bible says that in John 17, Jesus prays that His followers might be one and that they might be connected just like He and the Father are. And God Himself in the Trinity has this eternal relational world, and He's passed the need for a relationship on to us. But He's the only one that doesn't have to kind of leave the house to have a support system, right? He kind of has it within His essence. Now, that means that He's self-sustaining. Now, here's the deal. The rest of us, everyone else that's ever been created, is exactly that. They're created from the outside. See, He's the only one that's eternal. The rest of us got made from the outside and also are not self-sustaining, which means that we draw life from outside of ourselves. Just like a plant can't make its own water, can't make its own minerals, can't draw the life that it needs from itself, just like that, we have to draw from the outside. And basically, what God has done is He's designed us in a way where we draw life from Him and we draw it from other people. So that's kind of the first big truth here, is that we really do draw life and everything we need from outside of ourselves, and a big part of that is people. Now here's the second big truth that we're going to go into. That a lot of times when we're finding ourselves drawing not life, but pain or hurt, or, you know, any other kinds of injury, drawing that from outside of ourselves, which means, you know, other people are kind of downloading toxicity and pain and all of that into your heart, mind, soul, and strength. They're zapping your strength and hurting you in a lot of ways. That while some of those instances are really, you know, couldn't have seen it coming, there was no way to know, you really, really got duped, and the best discerner in the world would have never seen that. Here's what we know that is also true. That many times that we actually are drawn to certain kinds of hurtful people because of blindness in ourselves. We just are blind to that trait. Or sometimes things about us actually fit well. Like if somebody is really, a helper, then what does a helper need? Well, a helper needs somebody to help. So a helper can be really drawn to somebody with a lot of problems that's not helping themselves. And so there are patterns that we have that actually cause us to be drawn to some kind of people, or at least not see it coming because we're blind to certain traits, or we don't really know what to look for, or we have patterns in our behavior that actually fit with certain kinds of hurtful people. And so what happens is, the reality is, sometimes this is just bad stuff happens, right? But sometimes we actually play a part, either passively or actively, in some of these scenarios. For example, have you ever known anybody that's had a string of relationships with very, very similar people, or at least the similarity is they have a string of relationships with people that hurt them? Well, the common denominator in that string is that person. I remember I was doing a group at one time, and this woman stands up in the group. She has this big insight, and she goes, "Okay, I get it." She says, "I have been married to 9 abusive men, and I'm not going to do that ever again." Literally, that is a true statement. A woman actually said that, okay? Another woman in the group, she says, "Mabel, no, you haven't. You've been married to 1 abusive man with 9 different names." And she was right. She was drawn to a certain kind of person. Not drawn to the abuse, but drawn to the whole package, of which the abuse was a part, hidden in the charm and a bunch of other things. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what this series is about. We're going to talk about our unalterable need for people. That God has designed you in a way, and all of the research. I mean, talk about, you ever heard the phrase, the research is in? Well, the research is in. Physically, why you need people. Do you know that your health is going to be way different? Way different. Not only your health is going to be different, but your recovery from illness and your entire immune system is different based on how connected you are with good, safe people. Your performance in life is going to be way different based on how connected you are with good, safe people. Connected people reach goals, for example. There's a number of other things. Clinically, how you feel, your emotional life is going to be way different depending on who you connect yourself with. So that's going to be a big part of this, about what we need. But secondly, what we need is really what we need, so we got to know how to pick what we need. And we're going to talk about the traits to look for in significant relationships, and we're also going to talk and highlight some of the unsafe traits that you want to look for as well. Because if we know anything about the Bible, it holds up wisdom and discernment, and it says that we need to see clearly, and that we can't give what is holy inside of us to dogs, or cast our pearls before swine, or trust fools or evil people. And Proverbs says that the wise person sees danger and hides themselves. See, we're called to be wise. And this series is going to help you in your personal relationships, in your business relationships and financial dealings. It's going to help you in your circle of friends and extended family. And basically this, to know who to trust. Now, let me say one more thing. I do not want you to have a boring life and not have any crazy, wacky, dysfunctional friends. I mean, what kind of life would that be? We need kooks in our life. Are you kidding? We got to have fun. But here's the deal. There's this concentric circles, starting with your heart. And you want, in the innermost circles, the ones you really depend on and really, really trust with the deepest treasures of your heart. that they really need to be safe. And, enjoy the wackos, just don't trust them with the deepest things that they can't deliver on. And that's kind of the message here. So let me give you a little bit of an overview. It's basically going to be in three parts. The first one is, what are unsafe people? What are the traits? What do you look for? Because it's so interesting. If you ever had the experience of, a friend of yours falls in love and they say, you got to meet this person, this guy or this woman, they're so incredible. I finally found the one. And they're just going on and on about how amazing they are. Say, well, let's go out to dinner. And you go out to dinner and you meet the person and you're like, after dinner, you go to your friend and go, what are you thinking? Can't you see? And you list all of these glaring things that, well, they're glaring to you, but they're not glaring to the other person because the ether hadn't worn off and they got all these endorphins and stuff going on. And they actually have, sometimes what we're going to see is there are certain traits of people that are charming and wonderful and can kind of make you feel good in the beginning, but underneath that, there are other things that you should be able to see, and we're going to talk about what to look for in unsafe people, the traits. Part 2, we're going to ask the hard question. Are you ready for this? We looked, I think it was Pogo. Is it Pogo? It's Pogo's, I think, that cartoon character. We looked at the enemy and he's us or something like that. Point is, we got to look in the mirror. Here's what the Bible says when it talks about evaluating other people. It says we have to get the log out of our own eye first. And then, and this is one of the most powerful things I think about relationships that Jesus ever said. He said, get the log out of our own eye first, and then we can see clearly to get the speck out of somebody else's eye. So this see clearly thing, basically part 2 is going to be looking at ourselves and why is it that I'm blind to critical people? Why is it that I'm blind to people that are emotionally detached? Why am I blind to people that are kind of irresponsible? Why don't I see that earlier? And we're going to talk about why. And then in the third part, we're going to get away from all this negative stuff and go positive on you. We're going to talk about what are safe people? What are the traits you really want to look for and invest yourself in? And we're going to be talking also about why you need this, and we're going to focus on like the 2 big ways of focusing on this throughout the series is it's going to be 2. It's going to be looking outside of you, and it's going to be looking inside of you. And that's what I want to orient you with here from the beginning, that there's a lot of different ways to look at the relational world, but no matter what way you look at the relational world, there's always 2 in every relationship, okay? There is the self and there is the other, the self and the other. Now, ultimately, what we want here is we want to see a relationship and a relationship life where you are aware of both sides, okay? That you are aware of the self, the parts of you that are enabling this or that are drawn to it, and the parts of you that kind of play a role in this. Take a codependent and a drug addict. Well, the drug addict's got their problems, no doubt about that. And you want to be able to recognize. But there's something about a codependent that has to help, and you know how that works, to enable and all of that. And so we're going to really, really take the log out of our own eyes to be able to be discerning. We're going to turn you into experts at character discernment. And then also, we're going to look at the other. And we're going to list the traits of both safe people and unsafe people and turn you, hopefully, into wiser people choosers. I remember one time a woman in a group said this. She said, I think my people picker's broken. And that's what we're going to talk about in this. We're going to talk about your people picker. And because the ultimate goal is we're going to see is that safe people are basically exactly that, safe. And don't you want to eat food that's safe? I mean, think about it. You go to the store, and what do? Before you ingest something into your system, you look at it and look at the label, and is it expired? Does it have germs? Did the FDA approve it and clean it up and all of that, or does it have E. coli? And the reality is that there are people that, see, people are food for us, right? I said we draw life from the outside. And there are people that have some bugs in them. You know, there's some bacteria, they're spoiled, they have not been properly refrigerated. You know, they came into contact with some stuff in their own past and some germs that still lives on that food. And basically, you don't want to be ingesting it. So we're going to learn how to do that better, because safe people are people that are basically safe. We can take them into our lives and we end up getting nourished. Okay? So, in the intro here, I want to give you a couple of questions, 2 or 3 questions to begin to look at. First of all, do I even have any awareness? You know, what is my current state of thinking? Am I in a world where there is unsafety? In other words, some people they believe the best all the time. Where are you in actually coming to grips with some people exist in the world that you should actively avoid? You should actively avoid. Number 2, can I name some situations where, you know, I really got duped, and once I was past it, I should have seen it, right? Just to orient you to the place of this concept has validity, because you can get duped by things you should have seen. If I had listened to my gut, or if I had just paid attention to that. And number 3, I want you to write down some differences just to orient you towards the beginning here. Differences of what the fruits of what good relationships have done in your life, and the fruits of what some unsafe people have done in your life. Okay? Work on those, and then we're going to hop into, right after this, chapter 1.
For more Solutions recordings or other personal and spiritual growth products by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, visit our website at cloudtownsend.com or call 800-676-HOPE.